Yeah. Good evening to all the Achins and to all the participants here on this session. It's a pleasure to be back here with each of you. Last week, what we had looked at was creating boundaries for ourselves. And it was a pleasure to talk to you people about that. And today, what I thought I would do is like get a bit more outside of our boundaries and try to involve people outside that into our lives. Like what we do is when we involve other people into our lives, we form relationships with them. So we would be looking at relationships, especially for the youngsters, the relationships that we get into when we are young. And just to again bring into perspective what I told last time was about boundaries. It should neither be too rigid nor should it be too flexible. And that would again apply to the relationships that we are going to create today. So I hope all of you are with me in this journey as we look at the different relationships that we get into when we are young. Can you imagine as human beings if we had the inherent ability to be alone and happy? Fortunately or unfortunately, it isn't so. We cannot be happy if we are completely alone, if we are completely isolated. We are highly evolved individuals for whom to love and to be loved is a very basic necessity. It's important for us to have somebody else in our life. We feel nice, we feel great to be part of somebody else's life, to be loved. They say if you want to give the most severe punishment to somebody, give them solitary confinement. So you can imagine how important relationships are in our lives. So now, if I ask you a question, how many of you are in a relationship right now? I don't know what your answer would be, but that's something that as youngsters, you would have been asking other friends, or other friends would ask you. Very frequent question. Are you in a relationship? That's a question that we sometimes see on Facebook too. One thing I want to tell you is all of us individuals are in different types of relationships. Though today the word relationship would mean only for the youngsters when they fall in love. But all of us are in different types of relationships. When we use the word relationship, it means different things for different people. And it also evokes different feelings in all of us. What is your idea of relationship? And what is the feeling that you get when you're thinking of this word relationship? It would depend upon what this relationship is doing to you. And depending upon your age, you may be blushing. You may be so excited at this point of time that you cannot explain what's happening to you. You're full of joy. Well, for some others, it could be just fear. It could be anger, anxiety. You're feeling indifferent. Or you may be feeling controlled in your relationship. It may be an abusive one. Another point that I want to bring out is, you may be in different relationships. One could be a relationship which is full of bliss, and the other one could be abusive. This is because there are so many different types of relationships. You're in a family relationship, you just have some acquaintances around, you have friendships, and you have the romantic one, of course. In all these categories of relationship that we listed out, there are multiple levels of relationship. And that is why it has to be handled with care. So what we are going to do today is we are going to talk a little bit about friendships, and then we will move on to talk about dating. So where do we start making friends? We start making our friends at schools, at college, at our workplace. It could be anywhere. And this is very important to us. We have a basic human need to feel valued, to feel secure, appreciated. And all these needs are fulfilled by friends. There is no sexual interest involved in this. And there are various levels of friendship. With some, you are just very casual. With some, you share a bit more of a friendship. With some, you share everything. They're very intimate friends. And some of them you will call as my best friend. So, various levels of friendship that you have. Now, I want to tell you that good friendships are very essential for your well-being. All of you make good friends. Your friends would help you to make good choices, to help you grow, to connect with others. At this age, there will be so many things that you cannot share with your parents. You need to share it with somebody. And that is where friends come in. Whenever people come to us very lonely, depressed, or with suicidal tendencies, one of the things that is very common that stands out is they don't have anybody to talk to. They don't have good friends whom they can share openly. So don't isolate yourself. All of us these days have a tendency to isolate ourselves. You need to interact with people. You need to receive and give love and understanding. It's good for your mental well-being. So make good friends. Now let's move on from friendship to the romantic relationship. This too has various levels. You can move from casual to very intimate relationship. Now the level of this relationship also depends upon how well you know the other person. How much are you committed to that person? What is your expectations out of that person? Whether it is dating or marriage, relationships can become very complicated if it's not handled well. It may become very hard to understand. Now, let's look at it. Where does romantic relationship start in our lives? It starts when we are teenagers. It's known as our first crush. It's such an amazing moment, It happens in a flash. We don't realize. We see somebody and we feel so different. We may feel confused because what's happening? This has never happened to us. A very strange feeling when we see somebody else. It could be somebody whom you admire and you want to be like them. Sometimes, your first crushes may be even your teachers because you're admiring them so much. You want to become like them. Now, after this, we grow up a bit more in our lives and this admiration sort of a crush gets over. We now move into the next phase. We start getting romantic feelings. It's no more admiration. There's a little bit of romance involved. And we imagine this person as perfect and ideal. And it's so nice to realize that the person whom you have a crush on also has a crush on you. What a nice feeling. Now, again, this romantic crushes don't last very long because, we start with an idea that this person is perfect and we get to know that person and we realize that no, they're not perfect. So they don't last forever. But one thing I want to tell you that this romantic crush feeling is very real and it is very intense. Even if that relationship does not work out, losing that person will break your heart. And you will always remember your first crush throughout your life. You will always treasure that memory. All of you remember that Malayalam movie? There was that guy who named his daughter after his first crush. Remember? That's the way it is. We would remember them always. And after this, now we are growing up a bit more. We are moving from admiration to romantic crushes. And now after this, we are moving on to dating. So we have grown up a bit more. And dating also can start at any point of time. It could start even as early as our school days. What I want to talk here is about dating in a healthy manner. And dating before marriage is good. It's one of the best preparations for a healthy marriage. And you're lucky that all of you have an opportunity to date before your marriage. Now, all healthy dating relationships will not end up in a marriage. It need not end up in a marriage, but at least it will help you decide whether you want to marry that person or not. And if that relationship ends well, you'll feel nice. What happens in a dating is basically it's a means to get to know the other person a little more, to get acquainted with them. And even dating starts as something very casual normally. It's just hanging out with somebody else. And this is known as casual dating. It may or may not have a romantic overtone to it. Now, purpose of a casual dating is to just, you just want to enjoy your time together. You just have some common interests that you want to share with each other. And many a times when we started at school days, it is because everybody else is doing it. It makes me feel important. And we don't make any commitments as yet at this point of time. Now, where does this casual dating take us to? It can lead us to 3 different places. If there was no romantic interest that develops after some time during this casual dating, but you have some common interest between you. There's no romantic interest, but some other common interest between you. The two of you may end up as very good friends, which may, this friendship may last for a long time. The second scenario would be, only one person develops a romantic feeling and the other person does not. So this by itself will create some conflict in the relationship. Or both of you don't develop any romantic feeling. You do not have any common interest. So it will die a normal death. Now the third one is where both of you develop a strong romantic interest in each other. And this interest may or may not have been in the beginning, but it develops along the way. So you find yourself mutually enjoyable, you fall in love with each other. And then how you describe yourself is, I'm committed to that person. That's what you would tell. So this is called committed dating. And it's more serious than the casual one. Normally, this sort of a dating is an exclusive one. You can't be committed to 2 people at the same time. And if one of you chooses to do that, the other one would feel betrayed. And he or she will not hesitate to verbalize their pain. After this, what would happen is either you totally break up or there's a recommitment from both your ends and you continue with the relationship. Now, before we move forward, what I want you to do is, those of you who are dating or those of you who plan to date, I want you to just think, why do you want to date or why are you dating? Would you say, I don't know? Or would you say that everybody else is doing it, so I'm doing it? All my friends have a friend to date, and that's why I'm doing it. Now sit back and give some real answers to this question. It takes maturity to be aware of what your desires are and what are choices that your desires are making you take. Be sure to have a purpose for your dating relationship. So we have moved from casual to committed dating. Now the initial period during this time requires very little effort because you are in that being in love stage. You will do anything for that other person without thinking of the cost, the sacrifice, the time. You would put in everything for that person at this point of time. And that person seems perfect. You can even see a halo around that person's head. And obviously nobody else can see it, only you. You're in love. At this time, it becomes very difficult to concentrate on something else. Now, if you would have started dating at school time, school days, or in the college days, one thing you would remember is when you started dating and you were in this love stage, completely in love stage, your grades would have fallen, right? Because you sat with your books, but your mind was not there. You were not studying. Your mind was somewhere else with somebody else. So it's very natural that your grades would have fallen. At workplace, it may have been difficult to concentrate on the work. Now, this is the euphoric stage. And luckily, this does not stay forever. Because if it stayed, we would never be able to do anything else. Now, this is the time when you come off the I am in love emotional high. That halo starts falling off. You feel that things have changed. He or she is not the same. Now, the person doesn't love me as he or she loved me earlier. Now, this is the stage where hard work comes in, and this is what we are going to talk now. What is the hard work to keep our relationship going? By spending time with that person when you're dating, you need to get to know them better. But remember, you can never know a person completely. Each day will bring you new surprises. And it requires a lot of honesty on the part of both the individuals to be able to know each other. What happens when we start dating? We put our best foot forward. We make a very good impression. And we slowly need to start sharing details about ourselves. That's what is required in a healthy relationship. You need to know the other person if you want to build a healthy one. Start sharing your failures as much as you share your successes. Now, one of the very common questions that people would ask is, when I'm in a relationship, should I share my past relationships with this particular person? Be cautious. See the comfort level that you are in, both yours and your partner's. See how mature the other person is in taking it. And sometimes if after marriage it gets known, it could be very disastrous. It could cause problems. And if you're a person who is feeling very guilty about hiding the past relationships and it's destroying your peace and comfort, go ahead and share it. It's better that something breaks before marriage than it does later. But again, use your discernment. It takes maturity on the other person also to be able to take it. I knew of a person who was dating and the relationship broke off. And then the parents looked for a groom and the arranged marriage thing, and she was not able to share about the past relationship with her fiancé before marriage. And after marriage, she was feeling very guilty. So on the first night, she told him, I want to share something before we start our life together. I want to share something with you.
Yes.
And she told him about this past relationship. And you know what this guy told her? I knew about it. When we were finding out about you, I knew about this. I heard about this relationship about yours. She was shocked and she was so grateful that she shared it, because had she kept it to herself, she says, I don't know, he would have doubted me all along. What else am I hiding? Now, it could turn the other way around too. There was another person whom I had counseled who shared her relationship with her fiancé before marriage. And she said, see, I had a relationship like this, but it broke off because of this reason. If you are okay with it, only then we move forward. Otherwise, we will break the relationship. But he said, no, it's okay. And he seemed perfectly okay with that. But after marriage, he used it as a means to blackmail her. And there were so many problems that came into their life, because he said, I will expose you to others. And for everything, he kept blaming her and bringing this point into their life. That's not maturity. So, what I would like to tell you is use your discernment. Do what you feel is right. And there's no exact answer as to whether you need to do it or not do it. It depends upon the two of you, of how mature you both are. Now, be willing to take some risks in the name of love so that you don't miss out on a great relationship. And another thing, dating prepares us for is it prepares us to deal with the hard issues of our life. Real life has to do with these hard issues, and you learn to deal with those when you have a healthy dating relationship. Now, the next thing is, if your relationship is moving on to an engagement or a marriage stage, what you need to do is you need to discuss more serious stuff, like probably your finance, your family dynamics, your thoughts, desires, and what are your perceptions of life. Remember, they will not be the same. All of us are different individuals. Learn to disagree with each other, but do not be disagreeable in all these matters. We are not all at the same level. Many times they say, he or she is not my type or not like me intellectually. Find out about each other at this point of time. Your emotions, the way you emote is very different from the way the other person emotes. Try to understand all these things and choose a positive response for each other's emotions. Learn to process them. Your social circles, your friends. Talk to each other about your friends. Learn to accept each other's friends because they are an important part of your life. Now, the next important part that you need to discuss about is your spiritual life. Our spiritual beliefs often affect every part of our life. It's very important in our lives. Now, spirituality is not equated with going to church or to temple, but it's something that affects all our decision making, all our emotions. So what is your core belief? What is your tradition? Be aware of each other's spiritual beliefs and spiritual leanings. Then take a decision and decide your course of action, because this affects a major portion of your life. Now, another thing important to us, the most tangible and visible part of us, is our physical features. You may just enter a room full of people, all friendly faces, but in that room, one person will stand out. It's happened to all of us. All of them physically attractive people, but there will be one person who would catch our attention. We get attracted to people because of their physical features. It's very normal. And you need to be attracted physically to the person you are dating. But remember, friends, physical attraction alone will not necessarily lead to a good relationship. It's based on your instinct. But nevertheless, you have to be physically attracted to the person whom you're going to marry, the person whom you're dating. And so our life is balanced in all these areas. Discuss about all these areas. It's good to know them before you actually get married. Now, remember we talked about the halo effect. Now, when this halo effect starts fading away, don't give up on your relationship. You may decide to break up and start with something new, but your next relationship will be affected by the previous one. So end your relationship then, if that's what you want to do. But what I would advise you, when you feel that the halo effect is fading away, work on your relationship. See if it's worth keeping. Be very intentional about your relationship. I want to give you an example about a couple who had come for counseling. These two had been married for a year. After that, she went back. They used to have problems, and she went back home. And after a year of separation, they have come for counseling. Now, what this girl says is, I don't know why he married me, because he doesn't love me. So when you ask her for more details, they are living in a joint family. And she says, I've been waiting for him whole day. He comes from work, I make tea for him, and he goes and sits in the living room with his people. And I feel so left out over there. He's hardly talking to me, he's only talking to his people. And she said, if he had to be with his people, why did he marry me? So I said, so what do you want? So she says, I want that when he drinks tea, he should sit with me in our bedroom or the balcony outside our room. We should have time together. We should talk to each other. Because otherwise by 10:30, when he comes into the room, I am angry. And we hardly have time for each other. And when I talked to him, he said, I don't know why she feels that I don't love him. I love her. Because I'm the one who buys all the groceries. I'm the one who washes the clothes. I do so much for her. She just has to cook. Everything else I do for her. And he asked me, what should I do to make her feel loved? He was so desperately asking, what should I do to make her feel loved? Well, we will just go through something known as 5 love languages. That is a language in which we express love to each other. And it's a very important part of our life. You need to know the love language of the person whom you're dating or the person whom you are in a relationship with, whether it is marriage or it's dating. You know, some of us are people who want to be appreciated. We want compliments. We want word of appreciation, encouragement. We want others to say, you're looking so good. Your dress is so good. You know, these are people for whom words of affirmation are very important. And to speak to in this language, you need to look for what you can admire in that person and verbally express it. For some of us, it is, quality time. We want to be together. Just spend time together. Don't praise me. Just be there with me, is what this sort of a person would say. Third type of people are people who love receiving gifts. They're very happy to receive that. It need not be any expensive things. It's just to show that that person cares for me. Very often where, we have heard people saying, especially like, in Kerala, we have heard people saying, something as simple as a muttu suji is what they desire. That's all. So, for these people, receiving gifts is very important. For some of them, it's acts of service. They want to do something for the other person to show that they love them. And the last type of people are people for whom physical touch is very important. They want to be hugged. They want to be kissed. They want a pat on their shoulder. So, this counseling case that had come to me, I did this 5 love languages with them, and I asked them, what do you think is your love language? For the guy, naturally, it was acts of service, because that's what he asked me. What should I do to make her feel loved? I said, you don't need to do anything, because that's not the language that she understands. She's looking for something else. And very obviously, her love language was quality time. She just wanted him to be with her. She didn't care about, what all he was doing. So, we just worked out a solution. So what would you do? The solution was so simple. What they themselves came up with was, when he goes to buy groceries, probably he could take her with him. So her desire to be with him is fulfilled, and his desire to do something for her is fulfilled. So sometimes our solutions are so simple, but we just jump at saying, he doesn't love me, she doesn't love me. So when you feel that in your relationship, try to see whether you're speaking different languages and express love in the same language. And another thing, love languages change over time. As you grow older, your love language may change. And one of the best ways to understand the love language of your partner is listen to the things that they grumble about. Listen to the things that they complain about. Because in their complaints, you will get to know what they actually want. Don't shut yourself when they start grumbling. So we come to what are the common mistakes that we commit, when we are dating. One of the things very common that we would see among youngsters, especially teenagers, is the world is telling us that only people who are in a dating relationships are happy. This is not true. So what happens is we feel bad that we are not dating, we are missing out on something, and we end up dating the first person that we meet just because others are doing it. The second mistake that we commit is we isolate ourselves from all other vital relationships, our close friends. Everybody take a back seat. And then later, when we look for them, these friends are not there. Don't isolate yourself from others. And just by being a good friend does not mean you'll have a good, healthy relationship. You need to work on it. And don't mistake a physical relationship as for love. Dating often mistakes a physical relationship for love. You need to differentiate between what is love, what is physical attraction, what is sexual drive, and what is lust. You can break or build a relationship, and be careful that every relationship that you are into will impact your life with or without your knowledge. And every past relationship will have a bearing on your future relationship. They are hard work, but remember, they are beautiful. One thing I want to tell you is, do not look at the world for what a healthy relationship is. You would realize in the world view, dating and marriage is not taken seriously. And it does affect them emotionally. Set your standards, set them on something that is very solid and that does not keep changing. And I think the best place for that would be the Bible. Set your standards in the Bible. Seek and search there. Because this is the age where you're making the foundations for your life. If you base it only on emotions and feelings, when the feeling goes down, your relationship will get affected. The reasons why relationships die is because you yourself make them stop growing. We change. Everything in this world is changing. Either it is growing or it's dying. So if you stop making your relationship grow, it's obviously going to die. And one of the relationship principles that I want to tell you is, you will reap what you sow. You sow an apple seed, you'll get an apple tree. So you reap whatever you sow. And you reap many times over that you sow. You sow one apple seed, you will get numerous apples. So you'll reap many times over what you sow. And you reap much after you sow. It can have a lifelong impact on you, what you do. So choose well. Now, you may have made mistakes in your relationship, but as long as you're aware of it, you're on your road to recovery. Come to Christ. Do not underestimate the power of Christ, who can make all things new in your life. And He is the best counselor. He is the restorer of your relationship and your redeemer. So God bless you all. As we had this small discussion on our crushes, we would have thought of our crushes, of our relationships. So God bless you all. Thank you. Over to you, Acha.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for that wonderful session. I could literally see the grins and the smiles on everyone's faces as they remembered their first crushes. And you actually covered the entire gamut, from euphoria to realism, and also the wonderful message that your relationships should be based on the model of the Bible. I think that's a fabulous takeaway that we can that we can actually implement in our lives. We do have a few questions. We have one question which says, how much does the past of our partner matter in a new romantic relationship?
Okay. How much of your partner's past matters?
Yes.
Okay. Every relationship that we have, it affects us. It affects us emotionally, it affects our thoughts. And so that is why I said, you need to, you need to deal with your relationships in a very healthy way. And even when you are ending your relationship, you need to end it well. And when you are so bothered about your past, your partner's past, both of you need to, if you have to make your relationship healthy, both of you need to discuss it. If it is something that is still troubling your partner, discuss it out together, sort it out together. Because if it is not ended well, or if there are emotional upheavals that would affect both of you, so it's very important that now that you are aware that there is a past or there are emotional upheavals, it is good for both of you to sit and sort it out. And since now, you move from one relationship to another, they would affect you. So it's up to you to make it matter to you, or forgive, forget, and let the past be gone. Move forward. Or if you feel you cannot move forward, it would be good to break the relationship. Because don't get into, like the example of the counseling case that I had, their marriage is ruined because she was honest enough to share her past with him. At that point of time, he said it's okay, but later he was not able to handle it. Whatever the issue, whatever the problem, it could happen with any of us. So deal with it in a very mature way. We need to work on our relationships. And so what I would advise you youngsters is, when you are in a relationship, handle it very carefully, because you don't know whether it will end up in a marriage or not, whether it will break or not. So that's why I said set your standards very right, so that the effect that it will have on your next relationship would be minimal. And if it does have an effect, it would be a good effect. So handle your relationships well.
Thank you for that, Elizabeth. We have another question. Should we feel guilty about distancing ourselves from friends who create a toxic environment?
Well, friends who create a toxic environment is if you are unhappy, there's no point being friends with somebody who is, if somebody is creating a toxic environment, that person is not a friend. Okay. So you need to discern whether you want to change that relationship, that toxic environment, into something which is friendly. Probably it's because of a misunderstanding. So do you want to sort that out? And if you're not able to sort it out, you need to decide whether you want to continue in that relationship. It's up to you to move out. We talked of boundaries last time. So you can decide how much of that friend you need to bring into your life. That person can remain an acquaintance. You need not completely cut off. So the level to which you allow that person to influence your life is in your hands. So you need to decide where you want to keep that person. And probably you could also try to understand, what is this toxicity that is coming in? What is it about? And do you want to handle that? And about feeling guilty, when you know what you are doing and you know that what you're doing is right, you may not feel so guilty. And that was all about setting boundaries that we talked about last time. There may be times when you may have to say a complete no to a relationship, to something that is being done. But when you are very firm and when you know what you're doing is right and what you're doing is for your good, you need not feel guilty. But even if you feel guilty, process it. It's all about processing our emotions. Talk it out with somebody else. Probably somebody else could assure you whether you were right or you could have done something differently. Deal with your guilt. Deal with every emotion that you face. Otherwise, it can create restlessness in your mind.
We have two questions from the same person. So do you want me to read both at the same time, or should I go one by one?
Anyway, Acha, whatever is, if they're two connected questions, you could go.
Well, it's not really connected, but okay. How important is self-respect in a relationship?
That's the most important thing. If you don't value yourself, nobody else will value you. You need to respect yourself, because if you don't respect yourself, you will not be able to respect others. If you don't love yourself, you can't love others. It's only what you have is that you can give to others. So build your self-respect, understand yourself, be aware of yourself. It's very important.
And love cannot happen twice. So, what to do in cases where we no more find interest in anyone or anything?
Okay. So, when do you feel that you have fallen out of love? Or you love, and most probably this is related to you break up with your partner and you feel you cannot love again. It is difficult. It's not easy to love another person with the same intensity as you loved somebody. It could happen. So what happens is, don't jump from one relationship to another. That is what sometimes we normally do. We break up with a relationship and we feel we cannot handle things ourselves. So we jump into another relationship. So when you have broken up in one relationship, you're feeling love is lost, take time for yourself. Take time, grieve. And then when you are emotionally ready, then move into another relationship. I mean, nobody's forcing you to enter into another romantic relationship. Probably, your parents may be forcing you to get into marriage. But it would be wise to take time for yourself and grieve and get over that feeling. And slowly, with the new partner, you will develop love as you come to know the same person. But it may or may not be at the same level. It could be better, it could be lesser. It all depends upon you. It's difficult. It's difficult. I understand that.
We have a lot of questions that are coming. I think we'll take one or two more. Um, I am dating a girl, as in not me, like the person who's asked the question. So I'm dating a girl, but I'm also attracted to another boy. What do I do?
Set your priorities right. To think of what is happening to you. And that is why I said, set your standards for yourself. In any relationship and for yourself, set your standards right. And as I again mentioned, your standards, the best standards would be biblical standards. So set your standards right. Know your priorities.
Okay, I think we will take one last question. Um, how important is it to be compatible with your partner's family?
It's important. When you get married, it's not just that you're marrying that person alone. You're getting into a family circle. So, and that is why, if you remember, what we discussed about was, when you are serious about getting married or engaged to your dating partner, one of the things that I mentioned, that you need to discuss about your family dynamics. Make them aware of the things in your family, the things that your family likes, dislikes. And your partner would love that you have a healthy relationship with his or her relatives, with his or her family. It's good. It's a healthy one, to be compatible with them, to be at least to be able to adjust with them and to try to make a healthy relationship with them. It's important.